Hello, my name is Lisette and I will be leading the Sprint 2 Meeting Minutes video for the project Exploring the Unconscious. Our product owner is Dr. Mario Eraso and our mentor is Dr. Massoud. For Sprint 2, we focus primarily on cleaning up the algorithm, and during our first meeting, Com had already finished a Udacity course before the meeting and was planning on meeting with Mario to discuss the next sprint. I was doing the same thing. I had already uploaded and finished my application for 1 and 2, fixed my emulator, and finished the Udacity course. I also planned on meeting with Com and Mario to discuss the next sprint. In that moment, our only hurdles were trying to figure out how to divide the use cases in the next sprint. During our second meeting, we actually had this meeting before we saw Mario, and Com calculated the velocity and prepped for today's sprint planning. I had worked on cleaning up the existing code for the algorithm, and we were both still planning on meeting Mario to discuss the next sprint. We still had the same hurdle from before. By the third meeting, we had already met with Dr. Mario Eraso, and Com was working on the time conversion and input validation issue. I was still cleaning up the existing algorithm for the code and was about halfway complete. Com decided that he was going to continue to try to finish the time conversion and input validation, and his hurdle at the moment was deciding how to validate the hours. I was going to continue to fix the existing code and separate them into methods. My only hurdle was trying to figure out how to manage my time. For the fourth meeting, Com had completed the time conversion and was planning on setting up the environment in Android Studios to integrate the time validator and algorithm. His hurdle was jumping back and forth between Java and Android Studios. I had continued to work on cleaning up the existing code for the algorithm and intended to have it finished as well as integrate the time conversion by the next sprint meeting. And my hurdle was still trying to figure out how to manage my time. By the fifth meeting, Com worked on making the application on Android Studios and created the home screen, and he planned to continue to build the application. His hurdle at the moment was verifying user input when they exit a edit text, which is pretty much just making sure that the user input is either valid and invalid, and if you leave the edit text, that it will let you know if it is invalid. I had finished cleaning up the algorithm and finished integrating the time algorithm and input validator with the algorithm by then, and I had planned on finishing the documentation for the cleanup and working on the verbiage for the tutorial and about page. My hurdle was perfecting the verbiage for all of the documentation. So meeting 6 happened during the second week of our sprint, and by then Com had worked on making the application on Android Studios and planned on finishing the application and starting to integrate the algorithm. His hurdle was having multiple edit text and listening on user focus. I had already finished cleaning up the algorithm at this point and was conducting testing on the algorithm to find flaws. I planned on finishing fixing mistakes that were found in testing and continue working on the verbiage for tutorial and about page since I wasn't able to get around to it by then. Again, my hurdle still remained the same, just figuring out how to perfect the verbiage for the documentation. Meeting 7, Tom finished building the application and was going to continue to start integrating the algorithm and handle errors. His hurdle was still the edit text. Validating the input is done twice, which is necessary but seems inefficient. And I had already fixed additional algorithm flaws. It can now handle string input that is less than 1 billion in length at this point, and my plan was to continue working on the verbiage for the tutorial and about page. I did not have any hurdles this day. Meeting 8, Tom finished integrating the algorithm into the application, and he was able to change the application's output to what Mario wanted it to be at this point, and he plans on creating the activity for the about page. as well as starting to go over Carl Jung's aesthetic. His hurdle was he didn't really know where to start with his Carl Jung research. I had started working on the verbiage for the tutorials and about page, and I planned on continuing doing so by the next meeting. And my hurdle was still time management. Meeting 9, Com research design ideas and resources to use for the design, and he planned on having one design created by the next meeting. His hurdle was finding his inner artist. I had continued working on the verbiage for the tutorial on about page, and my plan was to finish it by the next meeting. I was still having the same hurdle with time management then. During our last meeting, Com had continued to research design ideas and resources to use for the design, and he still planned on having one design completed by the next meeting. However, finding his inner artist was proving to be very difficult, as well as finding the right background. As for me, I had already completed the verbiage for the about and tutorial and added it to the about and tutorial pages on the actual Android Studio application. My plan was to finish the Carl Jung research by the next Scrum meeting and initial phone application sketches. My primary hurdle was time management. If you guys have any questions, you can go ahead and send us an email. Our emails are on the screen.